Okay. Do. Okay, we're live once again to the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. And all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakah HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well and that do teach well and that have taught me this truth. May Yahweh Bashem Yoshai be with you in the spirit. And same goes on to you, brothers that are in the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth in sincerity and offer vainglory and risking your lives to do so. May Yahweh Bashem Yoshai be with you and may you be in his good graces. Kwam Yasha'Allah and a ball. All right, so obviously this is just going to be another various topics once again. There's always something to talk about in the spirit. There's always something to filter in the spirit. There's a lot going on in Israel. You got guys out here with guns with fringes. I've been seeing a lot of videos by the men of the Lord cutting that in the spirit. You know, a lot of weird stuff about how the mark of the beast, the C-hip, is sin now, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of false doctrine, and there's a lot of stuff going in the news about our people and the world, right? So without further ado, obviously, I'm going to share the screen real quick. Okay, so here's the screen. This is going to be the first article today, and it is woke $10 million MLK penis statue insults black community, Coretta Scott King. Wow, $10 million. That's a lot of money for a statue, right? Or an idol, right? Because really, this is an idol, and this is really against the law. And obviously, our people, you know, they're coming to pay homage to this idol of Martin Luther King, which was a prominent man in the so-called black community. You know, he paved the way for civil rights. He was a civil rights advocate. And he helped a lot of you so-called Negroes and you other nations and you Latinos to get certain rights in this place, which, you know, to a certain degree, that was very good. The Lord used them on the left to do that because it allowed us to actually go out there and push this truth. So some positivity came out of that, but also a lot of negativity came out of that because this didn't really lead our people down the right path in pursuing Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? So now they're making a mockery of Mr. King, Martin Luther King Jr., right? So January 15, 2023, and it says here, even some kin of Coretta Scott King hate the new $10 million sculpture just dedicated to her and her iconic civil rights leader, husband in Boston, with a cousin claiming it looks like a penis, right? The massive brown piece titled The Embrace features two sets of arms holding each other, an artistic interpretation of the classic photo of Coretta and hubby Martin Luther King Jr. Hugging after he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. The mainstream media was reporting on it like it was all beautiful because they were told they had to say that. Right? They had to say that when it really wasn't beautiful. And rightfully so, because it's an idol and it's also a graven image. And that's the spirit of the Lord. You know, he put the spirit on these people to sculpt this image that way. Whether it was done to be malicious or not, it was all done through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, because the scripture says there shall be no graven images before me and no other powers before me. That's in the law, Exodus the 20th chapter, which I'm going to pull up, right? So it says here, Seneca Scott, Coretta cousin told the Post by phone Sunday, referring to the new artwork on the Boston Common. But then when it came out, a little boy pointed out, that's a penis. And everyone was like, yo, that's a big old dong, man, said the 43-year-old Oakland, California resident. If you had showed that statue to anyone in the hood, they'd have been like, no, Absolutely not. And you know what? This is it. It looks like you're holding a dick, right? That's what it does. It looks like a penis. I got to be careful how I say this, but I hope this doesn't get flagged. Whatever, right? But this is how it looks. Um, so that's a complete mockery, right? And who told these devils that they can do artwork anyway? Right? But anyways, let me get a precept. I don't want to spend too long on this news article here. So I'm going to get Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as afflicted him and made no account of his labors. And that goes for pretty much all Israelites, but first and foremost, Yahushua and the prophets. We are, because they're ultimately the righteous man. And in that day, man, they're going to stand in great boldness before the face of those that have afflicted us. And because they didn't really count, they didn't really take our labors into considerations. All the great things that our forefathers did, right? Like Elijah and Elisha, Yahushua, Daniel, Elijah, I mean, parting the water, ripping off the mantle on his shirt, parting the water, right? Being beamed up into a cloud. And I believe Elisha, when he died, his bones were actually very, like, powerful. They had powers on it. It was to the point, I believe, a dead body fell on his bones and it became alive. And all the great miracles that Yahushua did, he took on all our sins. They don't make account of those labors that were done. And likewise, also, it trickles on down to Martin Luther King. He did a lot of great things, even though he was wicked and he did a lot of evil things, in his personal life. When you go into his biography and who he really is, he wasn't right. It's out there that he's actually a sodomite. He did a lot of vile shit, and I believe he was an adulterer. I believe. So he did a lot of wicked things, but he paved the way for this whole civil rights. He gave a lot of you so-called black people rights, so-called freedoms and liberties, right? So hey, we're gonna get ours in the kingdom, right? And it's gonna come with us. It's gonna come in the kingdom. We're gonna have everything that we want to our heart's content, right? Everything's gonna be fulfilled. We're gonna show our power. We're gonna show our force. Verse 2, when they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they look for. And the strangeness of our salvation comes with the chariots, the ships. It comes with the ships, us being beamed up. That's a part of our salvation. And then that's when they're going to realize that they mess with the wrong people. That's when they're going to realize that we are the chosen, that we actually formed all things. That's why the scripture says Jacob is the former of all things. And they're going to realize that they have inherited lies. So all this mocking is going to be done away with. And that really starts when Yahushua gets his respect, or Yahweh Bashem Yahushua gets his respect. And that's when all the shit talking is going to stop. Now, I mentioned a precept. Let me pull this up. Jacob is the former of all things. This is Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 16. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Yahweh of armies is his name, right? And Jacob is the former of all things. And, we're an extension of the Most High to show that the Lord creates everything as well. Through us, we get to demonstrate that. And that's why we are the former of all things. We invent everything. We're the trendsetters. people want to follow us, people want to copy us, whether it's good or bad, right? In every way or fashion. So I just thought to bring this out. This paved the way for a lot of other things to come in. That's why the LGBT community tries to compare their cause to Black civil rights, right? They try to compare our oppression to theirs because of how we accomplished so much in the land of our captivity, right? So we are the form of all things. That's why you see all these freedom groups that are out here. It's really because of what Jake did. All right. So now let me get a precept here. This is the law, and there's a reason why this was made this way, because it's really a graven image. It's an idol. So this is Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. Thou shalt have no other powers before me, and that includes people, right? Martin Luther King, he can be seen as a god too, which it's literal because he's a son of Jacob, Yasha Allah. He is the prince of the power, so he is a god. But you can't make other brothers an idol or other men an idol or another power in the sight of the Lord, right? To replace Yahweh Bashem Yashai, you can't do that. Thou shalt have no other powers before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, thy power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Right? So the Lord is very jealous. He's a very jealous power. He's a jealous God. And this is why he had to humiliate Martin Luther King. And that's why he put the spirit on the little boy to say, that's a you know what? And everyone was like, yo, that's a big old dong, man. That's the Lord putting the spirit on him to do that. And putting the spirit on those people to make this image that you see here. So that's a no-go. That's a no-go. Let me get rid of this. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. And by the way, I put the links in the description for anybody that wants to do their own study and take a look at this. Okay, so let's close this. Now it says, taste just like real meat, beetle burgers to hit mass production to help feed the world. So obviously you're going to eat defiled food among the Gentiles, and they're getting you ready for famine, pretty much. You shall own nothing and be happy, and that includes you eating bugs for dinner, right? Instead of you eating real meat. Real meat is what you're really supposed to eat. And there's only so much of chitins that you can actually eat, which chitin is a soluble fiber that is found in insects. And it has been proven that human bodies, they haven't evolved to actually digest a certain amount of chitin. So you can only eat so much bugs, right? When you really think about that. You can only eat so much bugs. But why don't they ever put this stuff? Why don't they ever say that? Right? Why don't they tell you all those things? Because you know what they're going to do in this article? They're going to tell you that it's good for the environment. It'll help save It will help save emissions and stuff like that. It's good for the earth. It's green. But how come they don't tell you that if you eat these in large quantities that you can get sick? Right? How come they never mention those things? It's weird, man. So it says here, eat bugs and live in a pod. The globalists and freaks and the left-wing media are trying to convince people to eat bugs. Eating bugs is degrading, and that's why the elitists are pushing them as a sustainable source of protein for the peasants. That's right, the peasants represent the poor. Right? And pretty much starts with you Israelites. Starts with you Israelites. You're the peasants, you're the poor. You Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. The ones at the bottom. And I back in one of my previous lessons that I did last Friday, I showed you the chart on how much you Negroes and Latinos and Native Americans are making. Man, you know what? You Gadites, you're not even on the chart. They didn't even put you on the chart. But at the very bottom, it was you blacks and Hispanics. So you are the poor man. You don't make much. Your households don't make much. So you know that means you really can't afford good food already. So what about in the times to come? What are you going to be eating? And that's why you have to rely on Yahweh Bashim Yoshai to give you things, man. Just like in the time of Elijah, I always like to reflect on that story of how he was fed by the Lord, man, by the ravens, and how he had to pretty much live off the land. And the Lord guided him to actually find food and shelter, right? So don't expect these people to feed you properly when all hell breaks loose or when there's a lack of resources. You should really be relying on Yahweh Bashim Yahushai at the end of the day. Okay. Sustainable source, and that's in quotations. Is it? No, it's not. According to a new study, beetle burgers made from mealworms will hit mass production to help feed the world. Mixed with sugar, the beetles supposedly taste just like real meat. Just like real meat. They could also become alternatives to sausages or chicken nuggets, researchers say. Beetle burgers could soon be helping to feed the world. According to new research, the creepy crawlers larvae, better known as mealworms, could act as a meat alternative to alleviate hunger worldwide. The process uses a fraction of the land and water and emits a smaller carbon footprint in comparison of traditional farming. See, that sounds all good. Sounds very convincing. But like I said, how much of this can you really eat and digest? Because when you go into the statistics, your body isn't really set up to eat bugs all the time. And yes, we do have examples in the scriptures of, I believe, John the Baptist eating locusts and wild honey. We do have examples, but that wasn't his main diet. You know what I mean? He had to eat other things, especially during the time of when the Passover came in. He had to eat other things. So, there has to be a balance, right? Is this really a balance, right? You're going to tell me that this is a really sufficient and nutritious meal replacement? Come on. Really think about that. Think about that shit. Okay, so it says here, okay. It says to make this a reality, French biotech company Yinsect is planning a global network of insect farms, including nurseries and slaughterhouses. And ask yourself this question: why is it a biotech company? Shouldn't it be a food processing company? Shouldn't it be an actual farm? Hell, why don't they put Monsanto's? At least they deal with GMO crops and stuff like that, but at least it comes out the ground. But why is it a biotech company? Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself that. So is this really for your best interest? Really, think about that. Is this really for your best interest? A biotech company. Get the hell out of here, man. A pilot plant has already been set up at Dole in the Bourgogne-Franche region of France. We are in control of the chain of production that gives us strength in terms of quality, security, and safety, says Benjamin Armenjon, general manager of Yinsect, according to a state from SWNS. All right. So that's all BS, man. So let's get a precept. So Ezekiel chapter 4 and 13. And Yahweh said, even thus shall the children of Yasharallah eat their bread defiled among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. So you're going to eat defiled bread, which is really food, among the Gentiles, which is around these other nations, especially over here in Babylon the Great. And you're doing that already because you're eating GMO foods. Really, you know what? You don't really know what you're eating. The FDA, they put certain limits on foods, but how do you really know if that's really healthy for you to eat? And we're all still alive from eating this bad food due to the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yoshai. He's the one that's actually preserving us from dying, because it's well known that you Jakes, man, that in the ghetto or that live in low income areas, not necessarily ghetto, just low income areas, who are living paycheck to paycheck. It is shown that you don't really eat healthy, and the food that you eat, it's defiled. It's not properly prepared. It's not properly made. It's not properly grown, right? Whether I will drive them, that's right. So, yeah, among the Gentiles, among the other nations, your food is going to be defiled and it's going to be polluted. Includes your food and your water, right? Your essentials, right? So, all right. So, yeah. Now I want to bring out this precept. And Amos 8:11, it says, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh." That's right. So, before this food shortage comes, pretty much you're going to get the famine of the word first. And there's going to be a time where you're no longer going to be able to hear this word liberally, right? You're no longer going to be able to wake up at any wake up at any time of the day, or go on the computer or your smartphone any time of the day and type up in your search engine the Hebrew Israelites, how to learn the Bible, how to hear the Bible, how to speak, how to teach the Bible. You're no longer going to hear that. There's going to be a famine of the word, and it's starting now, because now you have all this censorship going around on social media. Hell, man, I just told you, I believe it was yesterday or Saturday, I made a video on how, no, yesterday, I believe. I think it was yesterday. I made a video on how they striked my video, right? They striked my video down. So the famine of the word is already here, man. They're already striking you just for saying the name of Yahweh Bashem El Shai and preaching the 100% truth. So it's already here, but it's going to get worse when all hell breaks loose and when this devil cuts off the internet. Right? So just keep that in mind. Okay, so next one. You know what subvariant XBB.1.5 possibly more likely to infect the what officials. More proof of why you shouldn't have done this. And it says here also, young priest, my heart issues began when I got what. More proof on why you shouldn't have done this. I'm going to keep showing these. I'm going to keep showing this stuff, man, because it needs to be drilled inside your thick skull, right? Okay, so here's a tweet, and this is to stats from the year of 2021. Now it says they knew something was up, up before, but had to have seen this signal in Q3 of 2021 for younger age groups. When what were mandated, why did a dude on Maui notice it, but not them? Incompetence or cover up? At this point, it doesn't matter. It's now a crime after all of this. So let's take a look at the chart here. So excess mortality by detailed age band. So this is around the later year of 2021, and this is during the time of when all the whats started to be mandated, right? And now you're seeing an increase in death, right? So this is the highest year, right? Highest part of the year among ages 25 to 54. Well, really, no, I'm sorry, to 64, right? The young generations. That's a huge spike. So it spiked up to 134%. And then even when you get later down here, after, it's still pretty high. Almost 120%. So this is a problem, right? And I'm going to say this, man. Where are all the people who were pro getting what? Where are all you guys? Because I remember in the beginning of this thing, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, you should get it." Oh yeah, they were actually putting banners up. They were posting it all over social media. You had all these news outlets promoting that. Where are you guys now? How come we're not hearing that now? Because you know why? It's bad and you're getting fucked up. Where you guys at? Oh, I know where you guys are. You're in the ICU. On your deathbed. That's where you guys are at. Catching hell. And good. Right? But hey, that is some huge numbers here, man. 134%. At the very end, 120%. And this is the young generation. The young generation. That's not good. The young generation shouldn't be sick. Shouldn't be dropping from heart attacks. Right? Okay. So let me get a precept. And you guys that trusted this damn devil, the scriptures told you not to trust him. And now you're paying the price for it. A lot of you Jakes, you took it too, man. A lot of you Native Americans, you took it too. A lot of you Hispanics, you Latinos, you took it too. Right? Hell, even some people in the truth, they took it. God damn. I believe that was promoted by ISUPK. Even some of you guys took it. Where are you guys at now? Where are you guys at now? So it says, Sirach chapter 12, verse 10, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. That's right. And you know, how do you make something, how do you make a piece of metal or a piece of iron not rust? You got to keep polishing it. And that means you're actually watching it. So you got to constantly watch these devils, man, because they get really rusty. They get really dirty. They get really grimy. And you can never trust them. You always got to have them in check. You got to always question them. So the Lord told you, never trust thine enemy. Shouldn't have trusted this guy from the very beginning. First, he told you when this came out, oh, you got to buy toilet paper. You got to buy water. You did all that. It didn't help you. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to call this martial law. I'm going to call this voluntary isolation, right? I'm not going to call it a quarantine. I'm going to call it voluntary isolation. I'm not going to call it all those things when meanwhile it's all de facto martial law, man. You shouldn't have trusted this guy. Oh, you should put a face diaper on your face. It's going to help stop the spreading. Did it really work? No. Now you see the proof. See all these guys like Fauci being exposed. Come on, man. Never trust this guy. Come on. You know the MO. You know the scriptures. You know his MO and you know the scriptures. He has a pattern. You're shown a pattern of him lying to you and deceiving the world, man. So it says here, verse 11, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. That's right. He humbled himself and said, you know what? You don't got to quarantine yourself, lock yourself up. I'm not going to necessarily call it a lockdown. I'm going to call it voluntary isolation. Voluntary, right? Oh, we're not going to force anybody to get it yet, as of yet. Later down the road, later down the year, oh, now it's mandated. Now it's in law. Oh, now you can't go to certain places if you don't have it. Oh, you can't go to school and get an education. Now you can't have it if you don't have it, right? Can't work. Can't make a living. So this guy humbled himself under false pretenses just to overthrow you and get over you, man. Yet take good heed and beware of him. That's right. Watch him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass. And thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. You know, got to keep wiping it like a mirror that gets foggy, man. You got to keep wiping that so you can see your reflection, so you can watch. You got to keep wiping these devils down, man. Keep questioning them. Improve all things. So anyways, let's move on. Now I'm going to go into your young men because that's who's being affected the most. And guess what? In the times to come, in these last days, especially during the time of Jacob's trouble, a lot of you young men and women, you're going to die, man. A lot of you are going to perish. You know why? Because you ain't right in the spirit. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, these stats. What about when martial law and all hell breaks loose? What about the ICBMs? A lot of you people are going to die, man. A lot of you young people are going to die because you ain't right. So this is Lamentations, chapter 2, verse 21. The young and the old lie on the ground in the streets. My virgins, you young women, right? And young men are fallen by the sword. And guess what? In this case, you did fall by the sword. I'm not going to say the N word for it on what it is. I'm going to call it the Dino, the baby sword. The baby sword got your ass. The Dino. That got you. You fell hard. But in times to come, you're going to fall by the different plagues that are going to befall this earth through the Lord's righteous indignation. ICBMs, thermonuclear missiles, right? Hell, the Lord coming back. These troops out here. Thou hast slain them in the day of thine anger. Thou hast killed and not pitied. The Lord, he won't care. And he killed, man, and he will not care because he's angry and you transgressed the law. And you were really living in iniquity, which is you being in the condition without having the law. You sinning, when it comes to you sinning, it's like second nature. You just do it and you're ignorant about it. The Lord's angry about that, man. And you don't want to change. So you know what? In that day when you die, the Lord is not going to pity you. Verse 22. Thou hast called as in a day of solemn, in a solemn day, my terrors round about, so that in the day of Yahweh's anger none escaped nor remained. Those that I have swaddled and brought up hath mine enemy consumed. Not going to escape. The Lord's going to get you, and he has your number. Can't escape. And that goes into the statistics about the 2/3 and the 1/3. 66.6% of our nation will be consumed and they will not escape. Right? Salvation is only for a select few, a select righteous few. All right, so what else? Let's get another one. Jeremiah 11:22. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh of armies, behold, I will punish them. The young men shall die by the sword, their sons and their daughters shall die by famine. Yeah, die by hunger, and also die by the famine of the word too. We covered that. Gonna die by famine. You can't eat. Guess what happens to your young sons and your daughters, especially if you're out there in the wilderness and there's no adult to protect them. They're just going to die in the wilderness and starve to death, man. There you go. And their daughter shall die by famine. That's right, you're going to die by famine. Death. I don't know why I paused there, trying to make it all cinematic. But you know what? Your death ain't going to be cinematic when the Lord returns. It ain't going to be cinematic. Your life is going to flash right before your eyes. All the mistakes and all the stupid things you did, you're going to question. Hey, man, judgment will not be cinematic for those who are being judged. Right? It's not going to be cinematic. It ain't going to be like a movie. It's going to be swift. It's going to be quick. And it's going to be bitter. And it's going to be humiliating. Right? Verse 23. And there shall be no remnant of them, for I will bring evil upon the men of Anathoth, even the year of their visitation. Beautiful. So let's get the last one here. Jeremiah 9:21. For death is come up into our windows. That's why, and it's going to come into your house through your window. The Lord said, I shall come back like a thief in the night. Going into the book of Peter's. Coming in like a thief. Going to come through your window with a knife in his mouth. Boom! Slice you up. And is entered into our palaces to cut off the children from without and the young men from the streets. So a lot of young children are going to die. A lot of young men are going to die. A lot of young women are going to die. And I just showed you the statistic, right? A lot of young men and a lot of young women were affected by this. You know what? That's judgment. And the same is going to come in the very end. This is a very big jump in excess mortality. 134% in the later year of 2021. And then even at the end of it, and by the way, this is during the time of when things were so-called mandated, right? I got to say it that way due to the algorithm. 179%, 25 to 34, 200%, 35 to 44, 180, 45 to 54. Young people were affected, man. And the same is going to play out in the end. A lot of young people are going to die. You guys are not right. The young generation is fucked up. It is. And don't get me wrong, the older generation is just as bad. Those of you that are old in age right now, you were living it up in the 60s, being wicked as hell, popping pills, doing coke, sniffing and doing acid, blowing rods and shit. You're just as bad. But the new generation, you're super wicked. And the youth of today, they're turning to Satanism heavily, man. So you got to die. You got to die. Got to. Okay, so that's the end of that. So now we're going to go on to the missiles. So this says here, first nuclear propelled torpedoes for Russian mega submarine are ready. The Poseidon, I forgot how to pronounce that. I know that means, it means a god of the sea, but I forgot how to pronounce it. Let me see how to pronounce that, man. Poseidon, yeah, that's how you say it. It's a Greek god, right? I believe it's meaning god of the sea. Poseidon in ancient Greek religion, god of the sea. Ho ho! Earthquakes and horses. He is distinguished from Pontus, the personification of the sea and the oldest Greek divinity of the waters. And that's how these missiles are going to come. It's going to come like a god destroying you. They named it after a Greek god because that's how powerful it is going to be. And by the way, they have nuclear missiles in the form of torpedoes. It's not just going to come out of the sky. It's going to be underwater too. Don't forget that. Hey, the Lord didn't forget about you people in the waters, right? He didn't forget about you that are hiding there. He didn't forget about you. This has the capability of destroying coastal cities, destroying lots of land, creating earthquakes. The list goes on. This is judgment. It's not a joke. The Poseidon weapons are among the latest additions to the country's nuclear deterrence. Right? Russian shipbuilders have produced a full set of atomic Poseidon torpedoes, which will be carried by the nuclear mega submarine Belgorod. A source close to the Defense Ministry has told TASS the new boat will be armed with the weapons in the nearest future, the source stated, adding that the weapon system has completed tests on its various elements, right, including the propulsion system. So it's been perfected. Poseidon has an onboard nuclear reactor to generate propulsion and carries a powerful nuclear warhead as a payload. The first hints about its development were released by Russia in 2015. The weapon is yet to formally enter military service. The system is designed as a hard-to-intercept weapon, a hard-to-intercept weapon of mass destruction that can obliterate strategic naval assets, such as military bases, shipyards, and aircraft carrier strike groups. It can also inflict massive damage on coastal cities in the event of a full-blown nuclear war. You hear that? Crazy. Lord ain't playing, right? Let me get something here. 200. 200,000. So this is the ICBM missiles, and this is a part of the 200,000 that's going to hit America, and also different parts of the earth too, right? Revelation chapter 9 and 16. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire, and smoke, and brimstone. By these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. And that the third part of men goes into the Edomites, also NATO, and also the EU, right? Because EU nations are also a part of NATO, right? So I'll put them both. Okay, that's you. You're gonna get messed up. For their power is in their mouth, and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. This is going into the makeup of the missile, and in their mouth, that's where the warhead sits, and that's what does the most damage, right? So verse 20, and the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk, neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their theft. So even when everything is destroyed, they're not going to repent. They're not going to care. All the works that they did, all the wicked works that they did on this earth, they're still not going to repent. They're still not going to pay homage to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. They don't care. And that's why they have to be thrown into slavery. Now, let me get Revelation 6 real quick. Revelation 6, and let's go down. Okay. Revelation chapter 6, verse 13. And the stars of heaven fell onto the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. It's going into the missiles popping off and destroying this place, and that's what it does. It brings forth a mighty wind, a destroying wind to be exact. Verse 14, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. That's right, going into the mushroom cloud, and also nuclear fallout, nuclear radiation, nuclear blackout. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. That's right. And with that, it comes earthquakes. That's why every mountain and island were moved out of their place, because of earthquakes. That's why Isaiah the 24th chapter says the earth will reel to and fro like a drunkard. This place is going to shake, man. And it just showed you that it's set up to do that. This Poseidon. Right? There you go. Now it says, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. That's right. They're going to go into their bunkers, and they're going to try and hide and escape. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. And they're going to wish they've never been born, because they don't want to deal with Yahushua. Right? They'd rather die and commit suicide, because Yahushua is coming to take the crowns off their heads and put them into slavery and punish them for their crimes and atrocities, right? That they have done onto mankind, and first and foremost his people, and to mankind, and to this earth. Verse 17, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? And nobody will. Scripture says so. And there's many scriptures, there's many precepts, there's many breakdowns out there that show you that nobody will be able to stand in the day of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay, so let's go on to the last one here. It's going into the chip. It says central bank digital currencies are coming, whether countries are ready or not. So you hear that? You hear that? Whether you're ready or not. So you're going to have to change whether you like it or not, whether you buy into what I'm saying or whether we have to force you to do it by all means necessary. So it says the game-changing development could have a profound impact on the banking system, but few people still understand it. Central bank digital currency doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but you might want to get used to saying it. These so-called CBDCs, or digital versions of dollars, yuan, euros, yen, or any other currency, are coming, say those who study them. And depending on how they are designed and rolled out, their impact on the banking system could be profound. 114 countries are exploring digital currencies, and their collective economies represent more than 95% of the world's GDP. According to the Atlantic Council's Central Bank Digital Currency Tracker, some countries, including China, India, Nigeria, and the Bahamas, have already rolled out digital currencies. Others, like Sweden and Japan, are preparing for possible rollouts. The US is studying the issue and has run trials of various technologies to enable digital currency. Although Fed Chair Jerome Powell has indicated the US Central Bank has no plans to create one and won't do so without direction from Congress, which Congress is going to agree and they're going to do it. And you've been seeing President Joe Biden signing executive orders to bring forth digital assets, digital money, digital payments. So eventually they're going to do it. Debates about the necessity, utility, and potential pros and cons of digital currencies are often confusing and confused in part because every country rolling out a digital currency is doing it in its own way. Generally, however, CBDCs can be roughly divided into two types: those designed for use by financial institutions and those designed for use by the general public. Old versus new, you can go into less privacy. This is very important. You should read this. I won't read that, so I'm just going to get the precepts and close up because I've done and other brothers have done numerous videos on this, on how it's going to play out and how it's going to affect the world and especially our people, right? So you could read this yourself. So let me get Revelation. No, that's not what I want. I want this one. Revelation 13. Let me just get that. Revelation 13 and 15. So it says, Revelation 13 and 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And that image is going into the Romanized system, democracy, right? And also certain aspects of Christianity, right? And also it goes right along with the MOTB. And it says, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. That's right. So if you don't go along with our plan, we're going to make you go along with it. And if you don't, and if you fight us, we're going to put you to death. And that's why they're making statements like this, guys. The game, it says central bank digital currencies are coming, whether countries are ready or not. And that includes whether you accept it or not. And they'll get rid of you. They'll get rid of your leaders and they'll put a puppet leader that is going to sit in office and go along with the plan. That's what they're going to do. So they'll kill you to take this. You see how now we're getting closer? Now they're starting to change their words. Whether countries are ready or not, that's a big state. That's a bold thing to say. That's very heavy. Whether countries are ready or not. They weren't saying that before. They weren't talking like this last year. And if they were, it was done in code. But now they're coming out in the open. So keep thinking that we're fear mongers out here, man. Keep thinking that we're blowing smoke out of your ass. This is gradualism. They're slowly introducing it to you. And we read earlier, never trust thine enemy. Never trust them. Right? Very important. So it says, and caused that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, whether they're ready to accept it or not. Whether you're small, whether you're great, whether you're rich and poor, free and bond, you're going to have to take this mark, and it will be mandated, whether you're ready to take it or not, guys. Verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. You won't be able to do those two things if you don't have it. That includes trade and commerce, globalization, right? All of that. That's all buying and selling. And everybody is affected by those things. Everybody is affected by trade. Everybody is affected by globalization. Everybody has to buy and sell. Everybody has to consume. That's what nations do, especially successful ones. You have to buy and sell. You have to consume. You have to trade and barter. You have to open your market. Right? And they're going to do it with the MOTB, with digital wallets. They're going to do it. Now, here's the last one. Revelation chapter 12 and 12. Therefore, rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And that's why he's saying it this way to you people, because he has a short time. Whether countries are ready or not, we're going to roll it out. We're going to make it mandatory. And if you're not ready, you're going to see how sinister and evil I can get. That's how they're going to move, guys. That's how these devils are going to move. So anyways, I hope this was edifying. Until next time, I'd just like to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakah HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well and that do teach well, that have taught me this truth. Shalom to you, Akim, that are in the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth in sincerity and risking your lives to do so, man. May you be in the good graces of Yahweh Bashem Shai. All praises. With that, Shalom.